Welcome to Elliptigo's online support videos. In this video, we will assemble the Hollywood Rack Sport Rider 2 Heavy Duty Hitch Rack, the HR1450R. Should have come in a nice big box, and we're going to install this in your 2-inch hitch receiver. Again, this is for a 2-inch receiver. Please check to make sure you received all of the parts as per the assembly instructions that come with the rack, including the 2 fork mounts that you will be using to put the Elliptigo onto the rack. So take a moment to make sure you have all of the parts as per the instructions. Please note that the fork mounts will not be on the assembly instructions part list, but you should have 2 of them. First, we're going to insert the receiver tube into your hitch on the car. Note the welded loop inside the receiver tube. This is what you use for the hitch pin as a locking mechanism for the rack to the car, locking in terms of securing. And you'll secure it with the threaded lever on the other end. So go ahead and slide the receiver tube into your hitch. Slide it all the way in until it comes against its stop. And then we'll install the hitch pin through the welded loop. So make sure the loop is facing up. So slide the hitch pin through the loop all the way in. And then tighten the loop by turning the lever and keep going until it's super tight. This secures the rack to your car. You'll note that you should not be able to move the receiver tube or the hitch pin. So this should be nice and secure. You can install the hitch pin lock now at this point if you wish. Go ahead and snap it onto the end of the hitch pin. Make sure the key part is facing you and not the vehicle. And you'll definitely want to make sure that you know where those keys are. Don't lose your hitch pin keys. Now that we have that installed, slide the pin through the hole, which they're calling H5 in the assembly instructions, and secure with the little clamp. And then find piece G, which is the pivot bolt. It should have a washer and a lock nut on it. We're going to use that to secure the base assembly. So insert the base assembly, aligning the holes as shown in the instructions, which is B2 and H3, and then slide the pivot bolt through, put the washer on, and then the lock ring. And I used an adjustable wrench and a 3/4 inch socket to secure these two. So make sure you have a 3/4 inch socket or something similar, or 2 adjustable wrenches. And we're going to go ahead and clamp the nut onto this bolt. And you want to secure this tight enough so that the base assembly is secure to the receiver tube, but not too tight where you can't actually move these. These parts should actually move up and down so that when your bikes are on the rack, you can move them out of the way of your trunk. So test that these parts should, or the base assembly should rotate smoothly on the pivot bolt. Next, insert the pin, which is they're calling H6, through the H4 hole and the B4 holes, which basically just goes right through your receiver tube and the base clamp. And then insert the pin through the bolt to secure it. This is now a horizontal position. This is what you'll be using in position for when you're carrying the bikes on the rack. Remove the pins that hold the wheel support tube or the cross tube of the rack so that it can be horizontal. Go ahead and do that on both sides, and this basically just makes these arms flat. And this is what we're going to use to install the wheel trays too. So again, remove the pin and fold the wheel support tube down so that it is horizontal. Now find your wheel holders or wheel trays. These are left and right specific, meaning that they go either on the left side or the right side of the wheel tube. So go ahead and slide one on. Doesn't matter which one you start with, but I've started with the left one. And you slide that on. If you have trouble getting it onto the tube, you can use a rubber mallet to kind of knock it on. They're a little bit of a tight fit, which is what you want. And then secure by rotating the little adjustment knob on the top. So put a set of wheel holders on your cross tubes and secure. So you can see that I have two set, they're faced furthest away from the vehicle. We will put the fork mount on one of the wheel trays. It doesn't matter which side you pick to start with. Your fork mount should come with two Allen keys, one for the set screw and one for the clamp, as well as a quick release skewer that's in the middle. So you want to loosen both of those screws up using the Allen keys. You will have to open the fork mount quite a bit in order to get it over the tubing, and you're going to take the little quick release skewer out. So you can see you have to open this pretty wide to get the clamp around the bar of the wheel holder. And I put it in the middle of the wheel holder because you want your bike to stay centered and straight. So we put the clamp, the fork mount, in the middle. Also, you want the fork mount to be facing straight up, so towards the sky. This allows the weight of the bike, the fork, to be resting on the tube of the wheel holder. So make sure that the fork mount is facing straight up in the air, perpendicular to the ground, not parallel to the ground. Put your quick release skewer back in and then secure the mount to the wheel holder, tightening down the clamp screw and then the set screw. This should be pretty tight on there, and the fork mount should not pivot at all when you move it. You may want to move the little end cap to the side so that you have clearance for the clamp of the quick release. You can physically just push it over with your thumb. So now your rack should be set up with one wheel holder on either side with one fork mount. To install the elliptigo, you have to remove the front wheel and then place the fork on the fork mount and secure, just like you would with your front wheel with a quick release lever. Same sort of idea. Use your tension knob to tighten the clamp down and then push the lever over to lock it into place so that your fork is now locked to the rack. You shouldn't be able to pull the bike off. You can see the rear wheel sits in the rear holder, and that there's clearance from the underbelly of the bike to the rack, so the bike is not resting in the middle of the rack or touching the rack. You're going to install the next set of wheel holders, which would be the right ones, on, and you can see I've already done that, but again, I've positioned the bike so that it's not resting on the center of the crossbeam there. You should not have to touch it. You should be able to move the wheel holders into position where the bike is elevated off of that. And you want the bike to be opposite of the other, so they're, as you can see, they're back to front, essentially. Notice we're not using the center bar to secure the elliptigo. Then you can put the little screws on the wheel supports that just help keep the wheel trays from sliding off when you're to move them. For any questions about this, please contact us at Elliptigo and we'd be happy to help.